Hello there. So today we're going to take a look at how to make a wallpaper for your computer using the Microsoft photo editing tool. So let's say you went on a hike, saw some water, waterfalls, some trees, flowers, doesn't matter, whatever. Could be friends and family. Take a picture, get it back at home, but it's the wrong proportion for your computer monitor, or the light doesn't look quite right or things. So you want to make some minor adjustments and then crop it so that it fits your computer properly, so that the computer isn't trying to guess at what you want it to look like. You crop it yourself and then it is exactly how you want it to look. So in the case of this example, my computer monitor is 16 by 9. So the distance here horizontally versus here, that's the number. So when you hear the ratio 16 by 9, that's the ratio. So it's the actual pixels is something like 1920 by 1080 for whatever that's worth. Obviously, various monitors are in the past they transitioned quite a bit. The 16 by 9 is very common these days. So depending on what you have, what you're trying to do, you make adjustments to suit. So here's an image I took. I'm going to double click that and open it up, and you can see that it's a nice image. But, it's a bit flat. There's no punch to it. It's not how I remember seeing it, I'll tell you that. When I was there, the light was just glorious coming in through here, glowing in this area. These greens in here especially were really just popping. And so my camera has recorded this image in a way that's a little bit muted. And that's not uncommon, especially with the camera that I'm using. This is expected, and I typically expect to have to make adjustments after the fact. So what I'm going to do is launch my editor, and the first thing it brings up is the crop tool. And so in this case, instead of manually making adjustments, which I could do here, I'm going to simply go here and choose widescreen 16 by 9. So that just does a little centering, and it gives me the option to move based on what I want. So if you lower area here, I've got a root and some rocks and these branches. I'm not going to be able to get rid of those completely, but that's okay. I mean, it's nature. It's what was there. But I can click and drag this, and I'm actually dragging the photo behind the box. And you can see those, hopefully it comes through, you can see those little lines. That's referred to as the rule of thirds. And it's a sort of a standard way to organize the images. Things that are on those lines or at the crossing points of those lines, so the lower root here, for example, will hold more visual importance for you. This is obviously a very lightweight, explanation of that. So that's what those guidelines are there for. The idea is that you can move your image to intersect with those crosses and those lines to give you a more pleasing result. And so if you had some subject, a car, a motorcycle, a person, a dog, a flower, and you had the ability to move it around a little bit using a tool like this, you can line it up on those lines and or the cross points, and they will automatically, based on how we are, it'll give a little more visual importance to it. It's, again, colors also do this, and the light does this too. There's lots of factors involved, clearly. But that's just what those guides are, if you were wondering. So I'm going to bring this photo all the way, I'm going to bring that root right there. And so on the left side, I've got the line intersecting between the tree here and the rock and this log, and then I've got, this here, is kind of a nice soft look here. This was achieved, by the way, if you're not familiar, with a longer shutter speed on my camera. I had it on a tripod, and I set the shutter speed to be longer, so it was something like 1/4 of a second or 1/2 a second or 1 second, right? Those are longer than you can hold in your hand, and what it does, it allows the water to move through the scene while the camera is recording the image, and so it creates that soft look. So anyway, that's for another day. Plenty of videos on that on the internet. So I've got my crop set, and again, because this is the exact proportion of my monitor, I know this is how it's going to display. And I look down here and it's like, I kind of don't like that. So I'm going to move that. And that it makes some adjustments, brings this up to the top of the root, which is not ideal, but getting rid of this visual thing down here, see this down here? Getting rid of that is more important to me, so I'm going to do that. Now the other thing I could do is leave this here, and then I could grab this and move it. And it crops in. That I like. Yeah, it's pretty good. we'll go with that. So I've used the tool to automatically crop, and then I've manually made an adjustment. So we're off to a good start. So let's go to our Adjustments tab, and we can start tweaking this a little bit. So I can start to play with some things, maybe add a little light. And you'll notice if you look right here in the middle of this water, it's, this obviously the very bright, it's what they would refer to as the highlights. Watch what happens when I take this adjuster and change it. So I'm going to go all the way down. See how this part here gets a little darker, but this doesn't. And again, depending on how you took the picture and what you've got going on, certain elements may or may not adjust to the same degree. So use this tool to figure out, again, what's kind of generally pleasing to you. So I'm going to go with this here, just a teeny touch right now. I'm going to expand this so that I can play with individual changes here. I'm going to start by adding a little bit of contrast. I think it's fairly flat looking. I'm going to bump this up a little bit, and that's going to darken things down. Creates a little more dimension to it. If I go hard all the way to the right, that's a little bit over the top. So I'm going to bring that back just a little. And again, my encouragement to you is to go through, make some tweaks, make them subtle, and then come back through again. And especially if you do something like change the saturation, you're going to want to maybe change some of the highlights and things. So in this case, I'm going to check out the highlights, which shouldn't affect the shadow area as much. So take a look at the image, and I'm going to jam this all the way to the right. So all of this gets brighter, but this didn't get any brighter. And now watch what happens when I go all the way to the left. This got tamped down a bit, and this basically stays the same. So this is designed to affect only a part of your picture, independent of the other parts. See what's happening as I do this? So that's a really good way to either draw attention or try to get rid of that attention, depending on the effect you want. So I'm gonna give it a bit of a boost just because I want this extra glow. Because again, this is more about how it felt to me being there than a exact representation of it, by the camera. And then you can do the same thing with the darks here, the shadow areas. I can bring them down, which is back to that sort of super contrasty look. I can bring it up, and that kind of creates a flat, flatter, subtle look. So I'm going to just leave that down a touch. Now I'm going to get to the saturation, because when I was there, I remember the colors here, and especially along these roots, just being amazing. And this, again, the camera didn't represent it as well as I would like, so I'm going to jam the saturation up a bit. I normally don't go too crazy with saturation because it can look overly processed. It just looks silly. Everything's bright, and it just doesn't look anything like natural. But as someone who is standing in this water taking this picture, I can tell you this is about how it felt to me. So that even though that's a little higher than I normally go, I'm okay with it. It doesn't look like a silly scene from some fantasy novel. It looks pretty close to what I was after. And I don't think I need to play with the warmth at all. I think we're good there. And I'm going to just give it a touch of clarity. I'm going to double click and zoom in, just sort of poke around a little bit. Doesn't look like the anything is too out of whack. So double click again. And then I am going to add just a touch of vignetting. It already has a little bit due to the lens I was using. Well, that's a whole nother story, so I don't want to go crazy there, but just to give a little bit of attention. What this does is it darkens the corners a bit, draws the eye in toward the actual subject, which in this case you've got this tree here, well, what's left of the tree, and then the beautiful softness of the water here leading up into this little cascade effect that's here. And so again, now that I've made the adjustments down here, I might go back and decide, highlight, I'm going to try to lower that down and see what that looks like. And go, not sure. Maybe I'll jump the exposure up a little bit. It brings back some of the brightness here, but it also lightens things up here. And that looks more, that's not bad because, again, the light was shining in here, creating a nice glow effect. And I could decide to raise the shadows, lower the shadows, get a feel for it. So I'm just going to leave it here and call that good. Now what I would do is I would obviously save this image off, and then I can set it as the wallpaper of my computer. So this has been a quick video on how to use the Windows photo editing tool to make a wallpaper, the background of your computer screen, that is designed exactly as you want it to fit into your screen and to look exactly as you want it to look. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comments below. Please share this video if you found it useful, like it of course, And if there's other things you want to see, use the comments for that too, and I can try to make more videos that would appeal to you to help you learn more about photo editing using the native program within Microsoft Windows or other programs. I use Corel Aftershot, which is a more of a professional. It's not. It's a enthusiast grade software for doing photo editing, and other softwares as well. So please check that stuff out. And again, feel free to leave me comments. And until next time, you have a great day.